How exciting! Woohoo! We're live. Yes, beautiful, excellent. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? Oh yeah, how's that intro? Beautiful. All right, so let's see. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I assume everyone's hearing me fine. Just trying this microphone. Oops, sorry about that. Just looking in the chat to see if anyone can hear me fine. Just making sure it's all good. Give us a sing out in the comments there if you can hear me good. There's a little bit of a delay in the recording, and that's okay. That's fine. Expecting that. Anyone? Nope. No comments. I assume you're hearing me okay. We're good? Everything good? No? Yep. Oh, yeah, good. Excellent. All right. So, chapter 6. Let's get that going, shall we? All right. Okay. Chapter 6. I don't feel like reading now. I just want to play with the technology. Chapter 6. Oh, hi, Krishane. Did you just get here? That's nice. Excellent. Got a few here. Molly, Naomi, hello. Nice to see you. All right. Or to have you. See you? Can't see you, but nice to have you. All right. Well, let's look at the background. I wish I knew how to share my screen, but I don't know how to do that with this. Okay, modern media. This seems so weird. Modern media is in a constant state of flux. Gradual advances in the technology of media production have allowed for rapid advances in the way we create, consume, and interact with what we read, see, and hear. By the way, I'm on page 198 if you're following along. What was previously thought impossible in the early years of art, radio, cinema, and television has become possible. With this, the audience has changed too. New media and new media technologies are those forms of creating and assessing the media that has changed since the advent of digital technology. In this chapter, you will explore the ways new media forms have come to replace old media. You will examine the ways in which digital technologies have altered the production and distribution process, creating an environment, a media environment that connects more and more people every day. You will examine what this means for you as a consumer and maker of media, as the traditional avenues of production have changed. In this chapter, you will need to consider several questions. How has digital technology changed the way we consume media products? In an unchecked environment of online media and BitTorrenting, how do musicians and filmmakers continue to make art and have a viable living at the same time? With the expansive nature of online news production, how has the explosion of social media affected our understanding of the truth? Fake news, perhaps? To kick things off, refer to the timeline that follows. I lost my spot. Oh, yes. No editing here, is there? For an overview of the development of media technologies over time, most of which will be referred to throughout the chapter. Very good. So there's a big timeline there of going right back to 1440 when the printing press was developed, right through to, this one goes up to 2016, the rise of video and music streaming services. Now, 6.2, old media. Now, a question that was commonly asked earlier today, what is the broadcast era? Let's just jump to that. There's a little, on the side here, there's these important little bits that show you the important terms. So make sure you are looking at those and not just looking at the bulk of the words in the middle. So, for example, the broadcast era is a period between 1950s and 1990s where large institutions dominated media production of film, television, radio, and print. So that's where basically we have the era where it wasn't two-way communication with media. It was very much one-way communication. It was broadcasting out from from these institutions that were the television creators, the radio people that had these stations on the air, and they basically were the ones that gave us all the information, and it wasn't a two-way thing. The internet changed all of that. Okay. Ever since the invention of electromagnetic radio waves on page 200, transmitting radio sounds into the homes of millions around the world in the early to late 20th century, the broadcast era of radio, film, and television dominated the cultural lives of audiences worldwide. Mass communication excited and enthralled its audiences. For many years, individuals and families could sit in the comfort of their own homes and listen to the words of world leaders and follow along with thrilling radio plays. The introduction of talking and sound to film meant a face could be put to a name, and that name could talk. The production of these early forms of communication was limited to the control of governments and the very wealthy. So to be able to broadcast anything, you had to have a fair bit of money to set up a radio station or a TV station. And so those people were the ones that had all the influence over society. Where am I? Oh, yes. And many had early concerns that having only a few with the power to create the message meant that the audiences were susceptible to influence. As early as the 1940s, studies into the effect of the media were primarily concerned with how radio and film affected an audience so inexperienced with new technologies. Oh, well, I don't know. Many researchers worried that repetition of dangerous messages could result in dangerous behaviours. We've still got viewers. Oh, yeah, we've still got 3 here. Great. Where are we? As you have learned from the political economy model earlier in this book, except we haven't actually looked at that. Yes, we did. We did touch on it in one of those chapters. Such concerns came to light. Powerful individuals like Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, was once quoted as saying his customers could buy one of his cars in any colour they want as long as it's black. Such attitudes held by those with power and influence reflected how such individuals also treated the audience. What? Now, when the Nazi Party rose to power in Germany in the 1930s, a key pillar of their popularity came from their use of media. Did you know that? Newspapers, cinemas, and radio were all controlled by or subservient to the message of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. To examine the means by which the Nazis used colour, symbolism, and technical codes and conventions is a study all in itself. However, its purpose was clear: to coerce and educate the masses into following radical ideas. They pretty much had their whole country convinced that certain racial groups were inferior and that certain types of people should be put to death. And they pretty much had their whole country convinced of this through their media. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much of our media is potentially affecting us for the wrong reasons or the right? I'm not going to get into that. That's very controversial. I'm not saying that's the case. Where were we? Oh, yes. With no competing messages, Hitler and the Nazis were able to sway a younger, more experienced generation of Germans to follow a new ideology and to war. The destruction of World War II and the crimes committed by the Nazis have since been studied in close proximity to the evolution of media technologies and the role that they have when their creation is in the hands of a few as opposed to in the hands of many, which is what it is now. With the advent of television, audiences were once again educated in a new media form that allowed them to experience an even broader range of media products like drama, news, comedy, and documentary in their own homes. After its move from an obscure invention into a common commodity in suburban homes, the television quickly dominated cultural life in what was known commonly as the birth of the broadcast era. So, more so than any other form of media. This is very true. as a child of the 80s, so I definitely grew up with television being the main thing. And you know what? I hardly watch any broadcast TV anymore, thanks to YouTube and streaming. Media forms and the creation of media products began to cater for a wide variety of audiences. And in the 1960s, parents across the developed world began to voice concerns about the amount of screen time, can you believe it, that their children were experiencing. This is back in the 60s. No longer were audiences restricted to a single voice or author. They were more savvy and discerning in their response to representations of the world around them. In a televised presidential debate in the 1960s, the development of a new era of understanding for audiences began. Audiences who listened to the debate on the radio had found one candidate, Richard Nixon, to be their preferred choice. Lost my spot. That's okay, let's find it again. He was well-spoken and sounded more experienced. However, those who watched the debate on television had a vastly different response. Nixon, not a man blessed by good looks, no, was overshadowed by his younger, less experienced but more charismatic opponent, John F. Kennedy, JFK. There are many articles that support the premise that imagery proved to be more powerful as Kennedy won the election. So did he win the election based on his good looks? You could at least argue that he did win the election based on the use of the media technology available. Such as cultural shift in technology and audience behavior began a shift. Such a cultural shift in technology and audience behavior began a shift in the balance of power between audiences and media creators. Through the invention of new and more powerful media technologies, the power began to gradually shift away from the few to the many, the audience. Makes you wonder about the recent elections, how much they are being affected by social media. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Now, I'm not going to keep reading because there's a lot to do. But you've got headings such as old media production, and it looks at cinema. It looks at television. It looks at news production, newspapers, and news TV shows, TV news. And then we get into the heading of 6.3, new media technologies. Someone left. Oh no. Oh, I'm crushed. 2 viewers. Oh, was it something I said? I hope not. It's very hard to be just myself when I'm broadcasting live. Very hard. I'm hamming it up a little bit, I am aware. So I just got to learn just to relax and just be myself. I'm trying to keep it interesting and lighthearted. I hope you understand that. New media technologies, page 204, have developed and still develop at such a rapid rate that several new forms may exist that had not even been considered possible when this chapter was written. However, it is still vital to chart the transition from old to new media to evaluate the shift in production for producers and attitudes and behaviours of audiences. Hopefully, with this in mind, it may be possible as students of the media to predict and plan for future developments. The transition from old to new media can be traced back to the gradual transition from analogue media to digital. Essentially, radio and television signals were sent via electromagnetic waves through the air, hence the term on the air. Vinyl records, cassettes and videotapes all relied on materials that degraded over time. This forced the audience to rely on producers for media content. In the age of vinyl record, I'm not going to read all that. That talks about the transition, really. Web 2.0, well, that was a big game changer. Web 2.0, quality content. Thanks, Krishane. Thank you, Molly. That's very kind. Web 2.0. Essentially, Web 2.0 is where the internet became two ways. When the internet first came out, the World Wide Web, it was pretty much if you created a website, you put it on there, it was one-way communication. Web 2.0 allowed for technologies to exist where you can have conversations, chat, discussion, that sort of thing. Actually, in saying that, there were chat rooms back in the day, but Web 2.0 added a new sort of a live element to it. It was a little bit more advanced than the old chat rooms back in the day. All right. Anyway. I'm not going to read that though. Mobile media. Oh my goodness, the mobile phone. Bill Gates and the iPhone. That just changed everything. Everything, I'm telling you. Right. The impact of digital media cannot be summarised simply, nor will it be complete with this book. However, the emergence of smartphones and mobile access on page 207 to the web, mobile access to the web can serve as an excellent means to examine it. No longer are the key stories of the day dictated by the news media, nor are the timelines and locations of cinema and television releases nor are the timelines and location of cinema and television releases a restriction for mobile audiences. Anything can be accessed anywhere at any time. The mobile represents a palm-sized compilation of specific interests and needs that are dictated not by a wealthy few, but by the individual. New media technologies have revealed a seismic power shift in the relationship between media authors and audiences. The change in audience and media habits cannot be underestimated with the advent of the smartphone. I remember the first time I saw a student that had brought their phone to school and they had the internet on their phone. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, man. That's a pretty cool phone. And it was before iPhone. I can't remember how they used it. Did it have a keyboard on it? I'm not sure. But I was pretty impressed anyway. I thought, wow, imagine having the internet on your phone in person with you. That's really cool. All right, 207. I'm skipping all the extra little bits. There is a thing there though I will mention about the flow chart, which is on 207. Create a flow chart showing the relationship between media producer, media product, and audience for old media technologies, and then do the same for new media technologies. So I would imagine it'd have, let me go this way. So you'd have a box that says media producer, and then a little arrow, and then media product, arrow, and then audience. Now, the flow chart and all the arrows go that way. Now, with a flow chart of new technologies, you've got audience and producer is the same thing, and things are being produced both directions. So how you put that in a flow chart, it'd be interesting to see what you can come up with that's visually interesting and adequately represents the change in the relationship between audience and producer. And then we've got the post-broadcast era, which is now on page 208. The changes that digital technology has brought have shifted the function and purpose of broadcast era technologies like cinema, radio, and television. The broadcasters still exist, but in a different way in the post-broadcast era. Television, for instance, is no longer the centre of cultural life as it once was. Makes me a bit sad, actually. Rather, it is the product of influences and content that is being developed around it. You know, when I was a kid, or even a young adult, actually, everyone watched the same shows. Not everyone, but there was less content available, and it was more common if there was like a really good show, like say take for example Game of Thrones or something like that everyone seems to have watched. I've never watched it, but you have more. It's more likely that it is more likely that people would have watched the same shows, and so therefore they create a bit of a community. When you go to work the next day on Monday morning, say, "Oh, how was that episode of such and such?" And people would sit around talking about it and that sort of thing. It was very common for people to have a lot more in common because of the fact that they're all watching the same stuff. Whereas now there's so many shows on all the streaming services and that sort of thing, and different people have different ones. You don't assume that everyone has access to the latest show on Netflix, because not everyone does have access to Netflix, so, or Disney Plus, or whatever it is. Back in the day, everyone had free-to-air TV, so you just said, "Oh, you should check out such and such a show," and watch it, because anyone could tune into it. Whereas now, that's not the case. Anyway, the next topic after that is hybridization of media technologies, and that's as far as I'm going to go with this video. So thank you so much for the lovely comments in the stream. It's been lovely to have you with me. I hope this has been valuable and good fun, and I will keep this video available unless I look back at it later and realize how cringy it is, but I will keep this video available for people to look at later. I'd be very curious to know who actually came to watch this, if anyone, that wasn't part of my class at all. That would be very interesting. So that's it. If anyone wants to throw in a comment at the end, thank you, Molly, for that comment. That would be fantastic before I get going. And what can I say? Average watch time, 7 minutes and 1 second. How long have we been going for? We've been going a lot longer than that. Oh well, shouldn't get too concerned about these sorts of things. It's not a bad effort for a broadcast for my first time. So let's do a bit of an outro, shall we? Yeah. I should have just ended with that and then hung up and then cancelled it, shouldn't I? Didn't do that. Actually, I actually meant to press this one. Yeah, that's the one. I'm hoping you could hear the sound effects that went with those. Be curious to know if you did. Anyway, I shall be off. Thank you so much for watching. I've got to know when to end, so I think now's the time to say goodbye. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye for now.